All right, guys. So after about 9 days of hibernating, Trent Baalke has finally come out of his hole, and he actually went out and signed some free agents. And this time, it was not players that were already on the Jaguars. It was actually players that were from other teams. It had taken 9 days for the Jaguars to do this, and what do you know? Instead of signing one, they actually signed three. And it was like within a span of like what, an hour or two, is all of a sudden, bam, 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 we signed a bunch of different guys. And look, all these guys came from the bargain bin. Okay. They waited until all the pretty ladies left the bar, and then they took home the threes and fours, the easy ones to get with. And that's what happened here, where the Jaguars signed a bunch of cheap players to 1-year deals to kind of fill out depth and all that different stuff. So we're going to go through the list, man. The first bargain bin deal of the day went to defensive lineman Michael Dogby. He was a 2019 7th-round pick from Temple. He actually played his last 4 years on the Arizona Cardinals, started 4 games while playing in 13 games last year. There is a connection with him and his former defensive line coach, Brinson Buckner, who came from the Arizona Cardinals, and now he obviously works on the Jaguars coaching staff. This guy is going to serve as an interior defensive lineman for the Jaguars. Like I said, it was a 1-year deal. And at the end of the day, why did the Jaguars do this? Because they needed depth. They needed to sign somebody. They need to fill out the roster in that area. And, this was a pretty cheap guy to come in, bring in, obviously, on this pretty minimal deal. And, you gotta bring some bodies out here during training camp, and he's going to compete for a roster spot, on the Jaguars. So the second bargain bin deal of the day went to defensive tackle Henry Mondeau. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It looks like a New Orleans type of name, like a French Creole, Mondeau. He was an undrafted free agent out of Oregon back in 2018. He formerly played with the New Orleans Saints, the Kansas City Chiefs, Steelers, and the Giants. He signed a 1-year deal with the Jaguars, and he is also here for depth and as a competition training camp body to compete for a roster spot. So this is another guy who's going to fit in on the interior of the defensive line, battling with guys like Adam Gotsis, Devon Hamilton, or Robertson Harris, being around that group right there. So we'll see if he makes the team, but he'll be along with the competition to be out there for that spot. Now, the third and final bargain bin deal of the day went to Dearness Johnson, who is actually a pretty familiar name. I know for me personally because he played college football at USF, which is UCF's rival. He was a 2018 undrafted free agent. He spent some time with the New Orleans Saints, the Orlando Apollos. I probably should have worn my hat in honor of him, and also the Cleveland Browns. Now, last year, he didn't see much playing time. Now, granted, he was in a very crowded backfield with the two-headed running back duo of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. But so last year, he only saw 4 carries for 17 yards, but he did serve primarily with special teams duties. Got a lot of snaps at special teams. He has played a total of 4 seasons in the NFL. With 141 carries for 738 yards on his career, with 3 touchdowns. I remember when he first kind of busted on the scene in the NFL, I had Nick Chubb on my fantasy team. He was inactive for Thursday Night Football. I threw Dearness Johnson in my lineup, and he killed it. I don't know if any of you guys remember that, but I think it was late in the year, and he actually did pretty well, and I was actually pretty satisfied with the way he played. So really, where does Dearness Johnson fit on the Jaguars? Well, he'll be in a competition with Hasty to be the number 2. And at the end of the day, it's going to be Hasty versus Dearness Johnson versus maybe even Snoop Connor. We'll see how many running backs the Jaguars decide to keep on the roster. Now, Snoop Connor really didn't see much special teams play last year. I actually don't think he did. I remember he was inactive for a bunch of games, but that is one thing that Dearness Johnson can provide. So, we'll kind of see a lot there in training camp. Running back's one of the easiest things to kind of look at when it comes to what you see during the preseason, because these guys get direct carries and stuff. So We'll see what the competition looks like there. So, yeah, these are three different guys that the Jaguars finally signed from different teams. Now, I don't know what the Jaguars will do going forward. I don't like I said, like I knew deals like this would probably be free agency where we bring in guys like this. It was just surprising that it happened so freaking late in the process. Like even in days where we didn't spend much money, I never remember like a whole entire week going by before we signed anybody. I just, even off seasons where we were trying to be frugal, I never saw that. But the Jaguars right now have some really expensive contracts, and right now, you see on the defensive line, they just need to bring in bodies. Like I remember, in the off season, I'm trying to figure out guys to cut. One guy I looked at was, Caleb on Chason. You can save like $4.5 million by cutting him. But now you look at a situation where the Jaguars don't have a lot of depth, and they honestly need a player in that position. So, there's different things like that where, the Jaguars roster, I mean, the players that are on the roster are probably going to stay on the roster. I don't see really any random surprising cuts like that coming in. But yeah, there's some figures that the Jaguars need to figure out. The big thing that kind of handicapped us was, Evan Ingram's big franchise tag number. It would have been nice to bring that down. But, when it comes to free agent like contracts being given out to these different tight ends, it's not great right now. Like, you saw Mike Gesicki get like a 1-year deal. And Dalton Schultz, I think, only got a 1-year deal. And, I can understand where Evan Ingram's come from when it comes to, wanting to get paid more. And he probably does deserve to get paid more. But, when you get a job, typically you get market pay. And, right now, tight ends just don't get that, which is kind of unfair when it comes to the disparity between slot wide receiver versus tight end, how much more a slot receiver gets than a tight end. But that is the name of the game, man. It's the name of the game. The Jaguars don't make the rules. They just kind of play with how the market goes. So, yeah, when you look into this whole entire thing, man, lots of needs for the Jaguars, man. Lots of needs. They need, tight end, offensive line depth. They need interior defensive line. They need outside linebacker / edge rusher. They need cornerback. A lot of different needs, and really only like one pick in each of the first 3 rounds. So it's not like the Jaguars have like an influx of draft capital here. So at the end of the day, when we go into the season, there are going to be some positions of weakness. However, when you look around the NFL, there really are no teams out there that are perfect at every single position. We just got to hope that, look, our offensive line takes a big step forward. You want the offensive line to be strong. You really think that the Jaguars offense is going to be scoring a lot of points. You got to hope that some of your draft picks, pan out. I mean, look, you drafted Trayvon Walker number 1. You got to really rely on him taking the next step. Devin Lloyd doing the same thing. He was kind of lost and confused last year. If your draft picks keep taking the step forward, that's the right thing to do. That's what's going to happen. And, it's crazy the Jaguars commit so much. It feels like they commit so much draft capital toward the defense, but it still feels like our defense is kind of weak right now. So, yeah, need to get some studs. Like you looked at the Kansas City Chiefs last year. They got like George Karlaftis at like pick number 30 or wherever they got him, 31. And he was a stud pass rusher. The Jaguars, at this moment, I think the Jaguars' biggest need is finding another good pass rusher. I think it's an even bigger need than cornerback, because you have the debate out there. What's more important, defensive line or like pass rush or secondary? And it's a legitimate debate. I personally think that that pass rush is more important. I know, look, if the secondary is handling their business, then that makes it harder for, the quarterback to find someone to throw to. But man, if you can go out there, get pressure on a guy, it's going to force errant throws. And, nowadays in the NFL, most of these guys are mobile as heck. So a lot of times, if the secondary is really good and they're holding up, the quarterback's just going to run it. I mean, you see that with all the best quarterbacks in our division. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, all these guys can do it. So, and when I think I said division, I mean conference. Okay, AFC is absolutely loaded right now with good quarterbacks, and we're welcoming Aaron Rodgers to the mix too. So, yeah, lots of stuff happening. But yeah, the Jaguars today. Our boy Trent Baalke did some bargain bin hunting. Went to the $5 DVD section in Walmart, and hopefully found some, good quality players, in there. So, we'll see how this works out. Keep you guys updated with all Jaguars news. We're pretty close to the draft. We're about is that 5 weeks away? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're 5 weeks away from the NFL draft, so it's coming up pretty quick. You guys all know I love the NFL draft. Really fun day. It's going to be actually really fun this year with all the different quarterbacks going, and our night's not going to be done super early because we got pick number 24, so we're going to have to wait a little bit. But the anticipation will be fun. Seeing what players hop off, seeing what players are there for us. We're not used to this feeling, that's for sure. So we'll see what happens. Thanks, guys, for watching. Great way to show support is to click the thumbs up button so YouTube recommends my channel to more people. Really appreciate all you guys for watching and supporting me. Go Jags.